Hello, and welcome back to the Construct Cast. My name is James Darien. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's just jump on into it. Today, I want to discuss something that many libertarians will probably take trouble with, and that is that I believe free trade destroys free markets. Now, I'm sure many people who talk about free markets who all love free trade because you can take advantage of competitive advantage and absolute advantage from different nations. You're not going to be raising the prices while taking advantage of all these ways to mitigate costs and maximize production. A lot of people are going to be saying, "You're against that? What? That makes no sense." However, there's something important that a lot of these free trade advocates tend to overlook, is the fact that not every nation, especially not everyone that engages in free trade, is actually a free market nation. See, while our nation may have competitive advantages in terms of services, in terms of it used to be like steel and oil production, stuff like that. Now other countries are doing that probably better than us. But services are probably what the U.S. has a premier advantage in. And our government actually, they create an advantage for us through subsidies in many of our markets, including our automobile industry, at least with the way it was bailed out back during the 08-09 financial crisis, and our banks with the way they get bailed out, and more regularly subsidized, you have our farmers who pretty much solely plant soy and corn these days because it's subsidized so very much. And they can sell it, and because it's so subsidized, they probably sell it for far less than they would if it weren't. They probably produce it far more than they would if it weren't. And for our nation, yeah, we do some of this. Other nations, they do a lot more, and they don't just subsidize industries. They subsidize things like employment. It's not just about getting costs down and helping them bring stuff to market. It's about, well, actually, I guess employment is the biggest cost that you can bring down. So if you look at places like China, why are so many factories open there? Because even with the high regulations and having to open departments that are basically CCP wings of your company in order to do business in China, in order to produce in China, they end up subsidizing the cost of their employment and everything so much there, the cost of using their factories, hiring their people, and children and whatnot. And let's not forget all the concentration camps with the literal, well, maybe not literal, but very close to being slaves that are the Uyghurs or other people who make a pittance of a salary. But it's subsidized by the government, so it's even more. Wow, that fan got loud. It's even more noticeable. Anyway, I hope you guys aren't hearing my computer just getting really excited suddenly for some reason. But back on topic, it is insane how much some countries are willing to do in order to really sway the markets. Not only is there employee compensation and subsidization from governments, there's also I'm not gonna say tariffs, because tariffs are not free trade. So I'm gonna not use that. But you have things like, what was I just thinking? It was you have right. You have currency manipulation. Sorry, that took me a second to remember. I'm kind of running through a lot of things right now, but a lot countries like again China, they manipulate their currency so that it's cheaper than the competition. So that if our currency in the U.S. is inflating, theirs will inflate faster because they don't care if their people suffer from an inflated currency because it keeps the business coming back to them. It keeps them getting more U.S. dollars because the U.S. has so much money they can save by doing production in China, by doing trade in China, whatever they can do. That's a really big issue when it comes to free trade because it depresses wages. It depresses wages within our country. The other thing we have to consider is that a lot of these other countries that we are doing free trade with, they are not at the same socioeconomic level that we are at in the US. They are not paying their employees $10, $15, $20 an hour or more. They're paying their employees like maybe a couple dollars an hour, maybe $2, maybe $3, $5 an hour. And that might even be on the high end for a lot of these developing nations. Heck, there are, while the world has seen a 90% decrease in abject poverty, that the amount of money you need to make to be above that that abject poverty line, the global oh man, I am forgetting all my terms tonight, but the global poverty line is like $2 a day. So yeah, maybe less than 10% of the world is making less than $2 a day in modern US dollar terms, whereas 100 years ago it may have been 90% of the world that was below that, which great improvement, fantastic improvement. But that means the people still might be making $3, $4, $5 a day. So much of the world is paid so much less than what is paid in the US. Even white-collar work in some of these other countries can be paid a fraction of what they're paid in the US. So that, by nature, by default, will depress the wages of the US if they're competing with wages from people overseas who pay less. Not only that, because your products are going out internationally, no matter where you sell them from, a lot, at least with the international trade, since the products are having to travel around the world, it doesn't really matter where they start from. They don't have to be shipping out from the US. They can start shipping out from China, Malaysia, anywhere in Africa, Europe, wherever they want. They can go out from anywhere because they're going everywhere. That means that the production can be anywhere. And when you have nations inflating their wealth to make it cheaper for businesses to come, when you have nations throwing their own money at these companies so that they have guaranteed income to offset their costs, that automatically destroys the free market. There is no free market trade in these free trade agreements. Maybe in limited cases, but it's destructive. It's most destructive to the most wealthy nations. Sure, you can get more cheap stuff this way, but it is a short-term victory. It is a short-term gain for long-term harm, because it just leads to wage stagnation. It leads to things like even political imbalances, because now you have the largest corporations, the ones that are engaging in this international trade. They are no longer swayed by any nation. As a matter of fact, they probably won't even want free trade anymore because they reach such a size that it's actually hard for them to maintain growth. So if they can close off free trade at that point, if they can, or if they can manage to institutionalize themselves within these nations, if they can start to get these nations that aren't free markets, if they can get them to close down the markets and limit it to just them, then suddenly they have so much more power and control. And if you're a free market where you're saying that you're going to have to compete with all these other guys, anyone who wants to join that business can join that business and they can compete with you. If you're telling these large companies that, then their alliance is not going to be with your nation. It's going to be with the nation that says, if you make a deal with us, we'll make it so no one can compete with you. That's a big problem. It's a big cultural problem. It's a big social problem. It is a massive economic problem, especially for the lowest wage earners in the wealthiest nations, because it ends up creating a system where you can only get greater wage disparity. That, in my humble, or maybe not so humble opinion, is what ends up happening. And I see that as being a tremendous, tremendous flaw of these free trade agreements, because they're not free market agreements. Anyhow, that covers most of what I want to talk about in this video. I know it's another short one, but I think I want to get to the point and deliver this to you guys. I hope you like it. Anyhow, remember, leave a like and subscribe. If you want, check out any of my other content. I hope you do. I'll leave a little tag up in one of the corners, probably that one. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. That's the wrong hand to stop the video. Have a good one.